Well, hello there. How is everyone? You amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. This is video 2 of 3. Later on, we're addressing trolls. Earlier on, we addressed the weird hearing yesterday. In this video, however, we're talking about... Oh, you're looking absolutely amazing, by the way. We're talking about Lily Jack Sullivan, who have been missing now for 2 months. A case that is eerily similar to Summer Wells, one of the first cases that we covered on this channel. Can't help but look at various pictures around this case, and even down to the RV on the grounds of the house, and the fact that nobody seems to be able to tell the truth around this case. But anyway, let's see where we are. Let's see what we need, what we think needs to happen next, and why. So in terms of how this is being reported publicly, look, 2 months after the pair of young siblings went missing in rural Nova Scotia, police are remaining tight-lipped on whether they've uncovered any new information in a case that has captured international attention. It doesn't seem that they have uncovered anything new so far. And in fact, I think that they've potentially missed a trick. Lily and Jack Sullivan, aged 6 and 4, were reported missing from their home in Pictou County on May 2nd. Multiple searches by police, search and rescue crews, and public volunteers have turned up no sign of the young children's whereabouts as the case hits the 2-month mark. Asked on Wednesday to provide an update on the case, Nova Scotia RCMP referred Global News to their latest news release issued June 11th that said the investigation continues and may take longer than we had all hoped. That reminds me of TBI. The provincial government has offered a reward of $150,000. Not sure whether that's US dollars or Canadian dollars, but there's 150,000 of them, and that's the reward for information that leads to the children being found. The disappearance has been added to the province's major unsolved crimes program, which the province says is a tool to help police in major unsolved crime cases. Sometimes it's like a carrot in it. Here's a carrot, here's a carrot. Tell us what we need to know and you'll get that. The children's maternal grandmother told Global News last month that the family's focus is on finding Lily and Jack and that they hope the reward will help in the case. Now, does the RV... does that mobile home thing hold a secret? As it was mentioned on as some of the family members are talking to some of the YouTubers, it's a crime and shame, something like that. I think that was they done a live stream. And they were talking about, let me just come up here for a sec, talking about when the cops arrived on site and they wanted to obviously search. And it was the step-grandmother who's in this little RV thing. And they wanted to search her. And she was like, nah, you're not searching. I don't want them searching. Don't want them searching. Don't want them searching. Because I've got a dog and the dog barks. Fuck knows why she couldn't have just picked the dog up and said, you know what, you do what you got to do. You know, there's little children missing here. And, you know, they're my step-grandchildren. Let's do what we got to do. Nip this all in the bud. And I'll take the dog for a walk. Because dogs like walks. I don't know whether you know that, but they love it. You can even say, like, walkies, and they lose their shit. I'm just checking that none of mine are in earshot. They love it. But no, she didn't want them to search it because of the dog. But later on in that same live stream, the person who's on there is talking about the fact that they seem to suggest as well. She seemed to suggest that there was an interest in a cupboard, and she didn't want them to search because of a cupboard that was inside the trailer. Now, that's a red flag if ever I've heard one. Now, whether law enforcement had not cottoned onto that, I do not know. Well, if law enforcement perhaps were listening to some of the things that are going on social media and keeping an eye on things to see whether someone slips up or says anything, they may have overheard that themselves. But is it time to actually bring cadaver dogs onto the site? Because at the end of the day, we're 2 months down the line. The RCMP are like, yeah, they just walked off. They wandered, you know, they live in this area that there's an abundance of sort of rugged terrain around, and they could have just walked off. Don't know why that would have happened. Really? Same as the Summer Wells case, isn't it? Did Summer just wander off? I don't think she wandered off, but did somebody go up onto the property that looked like a scene from The Hills Have Eyes, which this place also looks very similar to that. It always seems to be these kind of properties. Look, I'm not laying the blame on anyone. I've learned before that, maybe we need to be a little bit standoffish. But look, ultimately, children are the responsibility of the parents, especially when they're a certain age. And these children had the last sign of life, if you like, was the day before, where they were all seen together close by, very much like Summer Wells and the fishing, no, it's not fishing, the swimming hole trip, and they've been sick, you know what I'm talking about. Very, very, these cases are almost identical, apart from there's two children here, two young siblings, who again were 2 months down the line with absolutely no answers. But what is being hidden in this RV? What is this cupboard all about? What is, maybe she was hiding something else, I don't know, maybe she had a ton of cash in there and she didn't want to sort of speak about why she had an abundance of money in there. Who knows? Could be anything. She just could have some sort of weird fetish that she doesn't want to explain. But the fact that these kids are gone, we're 2 months down the line, there's been multiple interviews. Some people have had, polygraph tests and all these sort of things, but we're no further forward. So again, did something happen on the site? Did, like in the Madeleine McCann case, when they brought Eddie and Keeler in, the cadaver dog and the blood dog, and they would find and be alerted to a hire car that was hired by the McCanns. But obviously, even though these dogs were right in every other case that they'd ever been involved in, they weren't right in the Madeleine McCann case. Go figure. But anyway, let me just go back onto this. So let's just carry on here. Lily and Jack were reported missing on the morning of May 2nd from their home on Gairloch Road in Lansdowne Station, which is about 30 kilometres from New Glasgow. And it says the children's stepfather, Daniel Martle, told Global News at the time that Lily and Jack were home Friday morning with him, his partner, and their baby. When they noticed the children were missing, he said the family immediately ran outside to look for them. RCMP said all the siblings were believed to have wandered away. They noted that there was no evidence of abduction. Again, exactly the same thing said in the Summer Wells case. What evidence of abduction are you looking for? Are you looking for a sign that's been put up saying abduction was there? I don't really get it. If they're saying they wandered away, would you be looking for crushed ground, broken branches that says that someone's walked off in a certain direction? I don't know. But no evidence of abduction. I always find that a little bit of a weird statement. So it didn't qualify for an Amber Alert. That went well, didn't it? For nearly a week, ground search and rescue crews alongside police dogs, drones and aircraft scoured the heavily wooded terrain surrounding Lansdowne Station through rainy and foggy conditions. On May 7th, RCMP said the search for the siblings was being scaled back, with police saying there was little chance the siblings could have survived several days in the heavily wooded area. And there was a picture of the siblings there. Renewed searches in May of nearby bodies of water, as well as through specific areas by ground and air crews, uncovered no new evidence. Another target search around the family home in early June also failed to find anything new. On May 28th, RCMP confirmed Lily and Jack were seen in public with family members the day before being reported missing based on video footage and eyewitness accounts. Police put out a call that day for dashcam footage or video along Gairloch Road between noon on April 28th and noon on May 2nd. RCMP said on June 11th that they had collected hundreds of hours of video from that area and others surrounding Lansdowne Station since that public appeal. Nearly 500 tips from the public had also been received, assessed and followed up on. The release said investigators had formally interviewed 54 people, some of them with polygraph tests, and have been granted numerous judicial authorizations to seize and examine materials and devices that may provide information useful to the investigations. You can imagine that a load of phones have been took in, possibly computers and all bits and pieces. Corporal Sandy Mathrew of the Northeast Nova RCMP Major Crime Unit, who is leading the investigation, said in the statement that the coordinated and deliberate approach by investigators in reviewing all information means finding answers that advance the investigation may take longer than we all hoped. All scenarios are being considered, which I think is right. At the end of the day, nothing can be taken off the table. We've got stories of potentially the children being removed from the home earlier on that morning. So there's been some side eyes of different people. But ultimately, they've vanished. They've vanished off the face of the planet, and they're yet to be found. But it says what the family said. Since the early days of the investigation, the children's stepfather has called for the search to be expanded to provincial borders, airports, and other exit points in case the children were abducted. He told Global News he hadn't had contact with the children's mother since May 3rd, when she left the area. You don't have to trust my word, but I'm the only one doing media for Jack and Lily, trying to keep this story alive and get them found, he said in an interview during his first week of intense searches. When reached by phone, the children's mother, Malaya Brooks Murray, said she had been advised by RCMP not to speak with the media further. Her mother, Cindy Murray, also spoke to Global News at the time and said the family was hoping for a positive outcome. Go figure. Martel says he has taken a polygraph test, which he said he offered to undergo, as well as an hours-long interview of major crimes investigators. I do have results of the polygraph, and I don't know if I can share those results, but they were good in my favour. I'll say that. Well, you shared the results. Either a pass or a fail, mate, innit? Pass or a fail. Martel attended a public candlelight vigil outside RCMP detachment Stellarton NS on June 3rd, marking 1 month since the children went missing. RCMP say anyone who may have information that may help in the case can contact the North East Nova RCMP Major Crime Unit or Nova Scotia Crime Stoppers, with files from Global's Rebecca Lau. So yeah, they're still missing. No further information, just a lot of speculation, a lot of things still on the table. Were they hurt at home? Did something happen to them? Have they been abducted? Were they taken somewhere? Was this some sort of coercive relationship between the mum and the stepfather? Who knows? But all I do know is again, we've got situations where family members who live on site where these kids lived didn't want elements of their home to be searched. They gave a piss poor fucking excuse saying it was because of the dog park, while simultaneously alluding to the fact that there may have been a cupboard that they didn't want to bring attention to. So I ask again, is it time that cadaver dogs were brought in? Because they haven't so far as of making this video, and we're 2 months down the line. Is it time? Will that shed more of a light on what happened here? Let me know down below. I will catch you all later tonight in video 3. Mwah.